September 15th, 1940, 11:26 hours, 20,000 feet above Kent, England. Pilot Officer Geoffrey Wellum saw them first, black dots on the horizon growing larger, coming from the south. He counted quickly, 20, 30, 50, more appearing behind them. German bombers, Heinkel 111s in tight formation, and above them, weaving back and forth, their escort, Messerschmitt 109s, maybe 30 fighters protecting the bombers. Wellum's Spitfire Squadron, 92 Squadron, had 12 aircraft, 12 against 80 or more. His squadron commander's voice crackled through the radio. Red section, take the fighters. Blue section, go for the bombers. Good luck, chaps. Wellum was in blue section, which meant flying directly at those bomber formations, through the fighter screen. He was 19 years old. This was his third week of combat. His hands were shaking on the stick. He pushed the throttle forward. The Merlin engine responded instantly. That beautiful Rolls-Royce sound. The Spitfire accelerated. The formation of 11 other Spitfires stayed with him, climbing slightly to get above the bombers. At 2 miles, the German fighters saw them coming. 3 109s peeled off, diving to intercept, coming fast. Wellum's section leader didn't even acknowledge them, kept flying straight at the bombers. The 109s opened fire, tracer rounds arcing past, bright streams of light, some very close. Then red section hit the 109s from above. The 3 German fighters scattered, one trailing smoke. The rest of blue section kept going, 1 mile now. The bomber formation filled Wellum's windscreen, 50 Heinkels in neat boxes, each box protecting the others. Each bomber bristling with machine guns, all those guns about to fire at 12 Spitfires coming straight at them. Break by sections, the section leader called. Attack from ahead, good shooting. Wellum picked a bomber in the lead box, centered it in his gun sight, range closing fast, 800 yards, 600, 400. The bomber's guns opened fire, bright flashes from nose, dorsal turret, ventral position, tracers coming at him. He could see individual bullets glowing orange, the size of baseballs, some passing just feet from his canopy, 300 yards. Wellum pressed the trigger. 8 Browning machine guns fired. The Spitfire shuddered. That distinctive hammering sound. 4 guns in each wing. Convergence set for 250 yards. All 8 streams of fire meeting at one point, right where his gun sight pointed. The Heinkel's cockpit disintegrated. Glass shattering, metal tearing. The bomber's nose dropped, started to fall. Wellum pulled up hard, 6 Gs pressing him into his seat, the horizon spinning, other bombers flashing past, more tracers everywhere, the sky full of aircraft and smoke and fire. He rolled inverted, looked for his section, couldn't see them, couldn't see anything familiar, just chaos. Bombers and fighters mixed together, no formation anymore, everyone fighting for themselves. A 109 appeared in front of him, maybe 200 yards. Turning left, Wellum pulled after it. The Spitfire turned impossibly tight. The 109 couldn't match the turn. Wellum got inside him, got his nose pointed, fired. Pieces flew off the 109's wing. The German fighter snap-rolled right, dove away. Wellum followed, but another 109 was on his tail now. He could see the tracer coming at him. Feel the impacts. Thump, thump, thump. Something hitting his aircraft. He broke hard left, full deflection. The Spitfire responded instantly. The 109 couldn't follow. Overshot. Wellum reversed right, got behind him. Too close. Maybe 100 yards. Fired. The 109 exploded. Bright orange fireball. Pieces tumbling. Wellum flew through the debris. Something hit his windscreen. Cracked the bulletproof glass. Oil on the canopy. He couldn't see forward. He looked at his instruments. Engine temperature rising, oil pressure dropping. Something was wrong. All aircraft return to base, someone called on the radio. Scramble's over. Well done, chaps. Wellum turned north, toward home. The Spitfire was vibrating. engine running rough, but still running. He could see other Spitfires heading the same direction, some trailing smoke. One with part of its tail shot away, but flying. Behind them, London, safe for another few hours, because 12 Spitfires had flown into 80 German aircraft and made them turn back. Wellum faced the tactical reality that defined the Battle of Britain. The numbers were always wrong, always against them. The RAF fighter pilots were outnumbered, outgunned in terms of total aircraft, fighting over their own country, which meant every loss was permanent. Every downed pilot was gone. Every destroyed aircraft took weeks to replace. But they had one critical advantage: the Spitfire. The Spitfire could turn inside the Messerschmitt 109, could climb with it at most altitudes, could dive with it when necessary, and most importantly, could survive damage that would destroy other aircraft, because the Spitfire was built to take punishment. Built to bring pilots home. The mathematics were brutal but survivable. Luftwaffe could put up 800 bombers and 700 fighters on a good day. RAF had maybe 650 fighters total, maybe 500 operational. But the Spitfire's performance meant that pilot for pilot, aircraft for aircraft, the RAF could contest the sky, could make German bomber formations turn back, could protect London, could survive. Wellum made his decision the moment his engine started running rough. He would not bail out, would not abandon his Spitfire over Kent, would fly it home, because every Spitfire that made it back was one more aircraft for tomorrow's fight, and tomorrow there would be another fight, and another, until the Germans gave up, or until the RAF ran out of pilots. Think about that calculation. September 1940. 19-year-old pilot flying his third week of combat, aircraft damaged, engine failing, but choosing to fly it home rather than bail out, because the aircraft mattered, because tomorrow they'd need every Spitfire they had. What Wellum didn't know, this day, September 15th, 1940, would mark the turning point. The Luftwaffe would lose over 60 aircraft. The RAF would lose around 30. Those numbers, sustained over weeks, meant the Germans couldn't win, couldn't keep trading 2 aircraft for 1, couldn't sustain bomber losses at that rate. Unknown to him, within weeks, Hitler would postpone Operation Sea Lion, the invasion of Britain, indefinitely, because the Luftwaffe couldn't achieve air superiority, couldn't suppress the RAF, couldn't protect an invasion fleet, because the Spitfire kept appearing, kept fighting, kept bringing pilots home. He had no way of knowing the Spitfire would serve from 1938 to 1955, would evolve through 24 major variants, would serve in every theatre of the war, would be produced in greater numbers than any other British aircraft, over 20,000 built, because the basic design was so sound that it could be upgraded repeatedly, each time matching or exceeding new threats. Wellum couldn't have known that 70 years later, the Spitfire would remain symbol of British resistance, that the sight of its elliptical wings, the sound of its Merlin engine, would represent the moment Britain stood alone and refused to surrender. He had no way of knowing that post-war analysis would conclude, without the Spitfire, the Battle of Britain would have been lost. The Hurricane alone, despite being more numerous, couldn't have contested the Messerschmitt 109. The performance gap was too large. Only the Spitfire could match the 109. And in matching it, deny Germany air superiority. The mathematics of survival were being written in combat losses and replacement rates and pilot exhaustion, proving that aircraft design optimized for performance and survivability allows outnumbered force to contest the sky, when alternative is annihilation or surrender. By the time Wellum landed at Biggin Hill, engine smoking, oil covering the windscreen but alive, transformation from struggling defense to sustainable resistance had occurred. The Spitfire had brought him home. Tomorrow, it would take him back up. and the Germans would face the same problem they'd faced today. The Spitfire kept coming, and while it flew, Britain survived. 1936 to 1938. 4 years before Wellum's combat, Britain faced strategic nightmare. Germany was rearming at terrifying pace, the Luftwaffe was expanding rapidly, and the RAF's fighter force was obsolete. The RAF's frontline fighter in 1936 was the Gloucester Gladiator, a biplane, open cockpit, fixed landing gear, maximum speed about 250 miles per hour, armed with 4 machine guns. Germany's new fighter, the Messerschmitt Bf 109, was appearing in prototype form. A monoplane, enclosed cockpit, retractable landing gear, maximum speed over 350 miles per hour, armed with cannons and machine guns. The performance gap was catastrophic. A Gladiator meeting a 109 in combat would die quickly. The technology gap was roughly equivalent to horse cavalry meeting machine guns. The Air Ministry knew this and was terrified. In 1934, they issued specifications for new generation of fighters, high-speed monoplane designs with retractable landing gear, heavy armament, modern construction. 2 aircraft emerged from these specifications, the Hawker Hurricane and the Supermarine Spitfire. Both would save Britain. But in different ways. The Hurricane came first, designed by Sidney Cam at Hawker, using relatively conventional construction, metal tubes covered with fabric, like upgrading a biplane rather than revolutionary new approach. Test pilot Philip Lucas flew the Hurricane prototype in November 1935. His report was enthusiastic. Speed is excellent, over 300 miles per hour easily. Handling is superb, stable gun platform. Easy to fly, easy to land. This aircraft will be wonderful for average pilots, not demanding, forgiving of mistakes. The Hurricane had practical advantages. Simple construction meant easy production. Fabric covering meant easy repair. Battle damage could be patched in hours, getting aircraft back in service quickly. The design was evolutionary, building on proven methods. But there were limitations. The thick wing required for structure created drag. Top speed was good but not exceptional. Climb rate was adequate but not outstanding. At high altitude, performance declined noticeably. Against bombers, the Hurricane was excellent. Stable platform, good firepower, easy to aim. Against the Messerschmitt 109, that would be more challenging. The Spitfire came later, designed by R.J. Mitchell at Supermarine, using revolutionary approach. All-metal stressed skin construction, thin elliptical wings, every design choice optimized for speed and performance. Mitchell was dying of cancer while designing the Spitfire. He knew it was his last aircraft, poured everything into making it perfect. The elliptical wing wasn't just beautiful, it was aerodynamically optimal. Minimum drag, maximum lift, perfect for high-speed performance. Test pilot Jeffrey Quill flew the Spitfire prototype in March 1936. His report was different from Lucas's Hurricane assessment. Performance is extraordinary, speed exceeds 350 miles per hour, climb rate is exceptional, but handling is demanding. Very light controls at low speeds, very heavy at high speeds, takes significant strength to maneuver in high-speed combat. This aircraft will be wonderful for skilled pilots, but it requires skill and strength. It doesn't forgive mistakes. The Spitfire had a different set of trade-offs. Complex construction meant difficult production. Metal skin meant repairs required specialized equipment. Battle damage took days to fix properly. Getting aircraft back in service was slower, but performance was outstanding. Thin wing created less drag. Top speed was exceptional. Climb rate was superb. At high altitude, the Spitfire excelled. This was where it was designed to fight. Against bombers, the Spitfire was adequate, less stable than Hurricane but fast enough to catch anything. Against the Messerschmitt 109, the Spitfire could compete, could match it. could fight it on equal terms. The Air Ministry ordered both, hundreds of Hurricanes, because they could be built quickly, because they were easy to fly, because every pilot could master them, and hundreds of Spitfires, because performance mattered, because the 109 had to be contested, because without something matching German fighters, the bombers wouldn't matter. Production began 1937. By September 1939, when war began, the RAF had maybe 400 Hurricanes and about 140 Spitfires. Not enough, nowhere near enough, but it was what they had. The Hurricane would prove to be workhorse, shooting down more German aircraft than all other defenses combined, because there were more of them, because they were everywhere, because they could be repaired quickly and sent back up. The Spitfire would prove to be champion, the only British fighter that could contest the Messerschmitt 109, that could protect the Hurricanes while they attacked bombers. That could survive the high-altitude battles where performance mattered most. Britain would need both, the solid, reliable Hurricane and the brilliant, demanding Spitfire. One without the other wasn't enough. Together they might just be sufficient, if they had enough pilots, if production kept up, if nothing went catastrophically wrong. May to June 1940. The Battle of France demonstrated what happened when the RAF faced the Luftwaffe without adequate numbers or preparation. It was catastrophe that nearly destroyed fighter command before the Battle of Britain began. May 10th, 1940, Germany invaded France and the Low Countries. The RAF sent fighter squadrons to support Allied ground forces. Hurricanes primarily, some Spitfires, not enough of either. The Luftwaffe had roughly 3,000 aircraft supporting the invasion. Bombers, fighters, dive bombers. The RAF had perhaps 200 fighters in France, maybe 600 more in Britain. The mathematics were impossible. Within days, the disaster became clear. RAF squadrons were being destroyed, not just defeated, destroyed. Some squadrons lost 50% of their aircraft in the first week, lost pilots faster than replacements arrived, lost ground crews when air bases were overrun. Fighter Command Chief Hugh Dowding watched the losses mounting, watched squadrons being fed into France and consumed, and made the hardest decision of the war. He refused to send more. May 15th, Dowding met with Churchill and the War Cabinet. They wanted more squadrons sent to France to support the French, to stem the German advance. Dowding said no. If we send more squadrons to France, Dowding said, we will lose them all, and then we will have nothing to defend Britain. The current loss rate is unsustainable. We are losing aircraft faster than production can replace them. We are losing experienced pilots irreplaceably. Churchill pressed him. France was Britain's ally, had to be supported. Dowding pulled out a graph, showed combat losses versus production, showed pilot casualties versus training pipeline, showed that at current rates, fighter command would be destroyed in 3 weeks. We must keep a minimum force for home defense, Dowding insisted. I estimate we need at least 50 squadrons to defend Britain. We currently have 36 operational. If we send more to France, we go below the minimum. And then Britain itself falls. The room was silent. Churchill looked at the graph, looked at Dowding, made his decision. No more fighters to France. That decision saved Britain, but it meant abandoning France, meant watching Allied forces be destroyed, meant accepting that France would fall, that Britain would stand alone. The evacuation from Dunkirk, late May to early June, demonstrated what the RAF could do when fighting over home territory, and what it couldn't do when outnumbered 3-1. The RAF provided air cover for the evacuation, Hurricanes and Spitfires flying constant patrols over the beaches, over the English Channel, trying to protect the evacuation fleet from Luftwaffe bombers. They were outnumbered massively, but they had advantages. Short distance to base meant quick turnaround, could fly multiple sorties per day. Damaged aircraft could limp home. Downed pilots could be rescued from the channel, and they were fighting over friendly territory, with radar warning them of incoming raids. The results were mixed but crucial. The Luftwaffe couldn't stop the evacuation. Over 330,000 British and French troops got off the beaches. The RAF shot down perhaps 150 German aircraft, but lost about 100 themselves, and many troops on the beaches never saw the RAF because the fighting happened at altitude, out of sight from the ground. This created bitter resentment. Soldiers evacuating from Dunkirk asked, "Where was the RAF?" They'd been bombed relentlessly, seen German aircraft everywhere, saw few British fighters. The RAF had been there, fighting at 15,000 to 20,000 feet, where the German fighters and bombers were, but invisible from below, preventing much worse devastation. If the Luftwaffe had operated unopposed, the evacuation would have failed. The losses would have been catastrophic. But perception mattered, and the perception was that the RAF had failed, that British soldiers had been abandoned. Fighter Command would have to prove itself in the coming months, would have to demonstrate that it could defend Britain, that Dowding's decision to preserve forces was correct, that holding back squadrons from France was worth it. The test was coming, and everyone knew it. July 1940. The Battle of Britain began not with dramatic raids on London, but with grinding attacks on Channel convoys and coastal targets, the Luftwaffe probing defences, testing RAF responses, trying to draw Fighter Command into attritional battle. The goal was simple: destroy the RAF, achieve air superiority, allow invasion. The method was systematic: attack shipping in Channel, force RAF to respond, shoot them down when they come up. Eventually, RAF runs out of aircraft, or pilots, or both. Then invade. Hitler had set the date: Operation Sea Lion, invasion of Britain, September 15th. But it required air superiority. The Royal Navy controlled the seas. The German Navy couldn't protect an invasion fleet without air superiority, so the Luftwaffe had to destroy the RAF first. They had the numbers, about 2,800 aircraft available. Of those, roughly 1,400 were bombers, and about 1,000 were fighters. Primarily the Messerschmitt 109, with some twin-engine Me-110s. The RAF had about 650 fighters operational, maybe 1,400 pilots. Of those 650 fighters, roughly 350 were Hurricanes, and about 200 were Spitfires. The rest were older types, not really suited to modern combat. The Luftwaffe had 3-to-1 advantage in numbers, and their primary fighter, the Me-109, was excellent, fast, well-armed, good climb rate. If anything, slightly better than the Hurricane and roughly equal to the Spitfire. But the RAF had advantages that numbers didn't show. First advantage, radar. Britain had built a chain of radar stations along the coast, chain home stations. They could detect incoming raids 100 miles away, could estimate altitude, numbers, direction. This gave Fighter Command warning. Time to scramble fighters, get them to altitude, position them advantageously. The Germans didn't fully understand how valuable this was. They knew Britain had radar, but they didn't realize it was integrated into comprehensive defensive system, didn't realize it eliminated surprise, turned interception from luck into calculated response. Second advantage, fighting over home territory. RAF pilots shot down over Britain could bail out, walk to nearest phone, call their squadron, be back flying that afternoon. German pilots shot down over Britain were captured, lost for the war. This asymmetry was brutal. Every engagement over Britain favored RAF survival. Third advantage, the Spitfire. Against bombers, both Hurricane and Spitfire were effective, but against the Me-109, only the Spitfire could compete consistently. The Hurricane could fight 109s, but it was at disadvantage. Slower, couldn't climb as well. In a 1 versus 1 fight, 109 usually won. the Spitfire changed that equation. It could turn tighter than 109, could climb with it at most altitudes, was roughly equal in speed. This meant Spitfires could engage 109s on equal terms, could protect Hurricanes while they attacked bombers, could contest air superiority. Fourth advantage, tactical flexibility. Fighter command didn't have to win, just had to survive, had to prevent the Luftwaffe from achieving air superiority, could trade space for time, could retreat when outnumbered, could choose when to fight. The Luftwaffe had to win decisively, had to achieve air superiority on a timeline, had to keep pressing attacks even when taking heavy losses. The July battles established patterns that would continue through September. Luftwaffe would send fighter sweeps or bomber formations with heavy escort. RAF radar would detect them. Controllers would scramble squadrons, vector them to intercept. Spitfire squadrons would engage the fighters. Hurricane squadrons would attack the bombers. The fighting was brutal. Losses on both sides were heavy, but sustainable for RAF, not sustainable for Luftwaffe. A typical engagement worked like this. Radar detects incoming raid. 50+ aircraft, 15,000 feet, heading northwest. 4 squadrons scrambled, 2 Hurricane, 2 Spitfire, given vectors to intercept. Squadrons climbed to altitude, 18,000 feet for Hurricanes, 22,000 feet for Spitfires, position themselves between bombers and target. Bombers approach, Me-109s weaving above them at 25,000 feet. Spitfires climb to engage 109s. Hurricanes position to attack bombers. Spitfires hit the 109s from slightly above or at same altitude. The 109s can't ignore them, have to turn and fight, have to protect themselves. This pulls them away from bombers. With 109s occupied, Hurricanes attack bombers from head-on, or from above, or from beam. Doesn't matter much. Bombers are vulnerable without fighter protection. Hurricane's 8 machine guns are devastating at close range. Some bombers go down, others break formation. Jettison bombs, turn for home. The raid is broken up. Maybe hits target, maybe doesn't. Either way, effectiveness is reduced. Meanwhile, Spitfires and 109s are fighting at altitude, turning, climbing, diving. Neither has decisive advantage. Some Spitfires get shot down, some 109s get shot down. But as long as Spitfires keep 109s occupied, bombers remain vulnerable. Eventually, 109s reach their fuel limit, can't stay over Britain long, have to return to France. Bombers are now completely unprotected, either run for home or get destroyed. This pattern repeated daily, sometimes multiple times per day. Both sides took losses, but the RAF was slowly winning the attrition battle because they were fighting over home territory, because radar gave them advantage, because the Spitfire could contest the 109, and most importantly, because fighter command only had to survive, while Luftwaffe had to win. August 1940. August brought a shift in German strategy. Instead of attacking convoys and coastal targets, the Luftwaffe targeted RAF airfields and aircraft factories, trying to destroy fighter command on the ground or destroy its ability to replace losses. This was more dangerous, much more dangerous. Attacks on airfields could destroy aircraft on the ground, could destroy hangars, repair facilities, fuel stores, could make bases unusable, force RAF to operate from fewer bases, concentrate forces, make them easier to target. Some of the most intense fighting of the Battle of Britain happened in August, days when the RAF flew 600 or 700 sorties, when losses on both sides exceeded 30 aircraft in a single day, when airfields were bombed repeatedly, when barely got raids cleaned up before next one arrived. Biggin Hill was hit repeatedly, Manston, Hawkinge, Limping, bases in southeast England, closest to France, most important for interception. They took tremendous punishment. August 18th was typical. The Luftwaffe launched maximum effort, over 700 sorties, targeting multiple airfields simultaneously. trying to overwhelm defenses. The RAF scrambled everything, every available squadron, every available aircraft. The fighting lasted all day, from mid-morning through late afternoon. The Luftwaffe lost about 70 aircraft. The RAF lost about 30. Terrible losses on both sides. But the mathematics were clear. The RAF was winning the exchange rate, 2-1 in their favor. At that rate, the Luftwaffe couldn't sustain offensive. But there was a problem. The RAF was running out of experienced pilots. Training pipeline produced new pilots, but they came out with maybe 10 hours in type. No combat experience, no idea how to survive first missions. Many died on their first sortie, or their second, before they learned the tricks, the techniques. How to see the enemy before enemy saw them, how to position advantageously, how to brake when attacked. Experienced pilots were irreplaceable. A pilot with 50 missions, who'd survived the learning curve, who could lead sections, who could train new pilots. Losing them was catastrophic, and they were being lost, not in large numbers, but steadily. The accumulated attrition was grinding down the experienced cadre. Squadron commanders were flying multiple sorties per day, 3, 4, 5 missions, until they were so exhausted they could barely see, making mistakes, getting shot down not because they were unskilled, but because fatigue made them slow, made them miss things, made them vulnerable. The Spitfire kept them alive more often than not. Its performance meant experienced pilots could survive situations that would kill them in lesser aircraft, could outturn the 109 when necessary, could outclimb it when altitude was critical, could survive hits that would destroy other aircraft. But even the Spitfire couldn't overcome exhaustion, couldn't overcome being outnumbered 3-1, couldn't overcome the mathematics of fighting every day, multiple times per day, week after week. By late August, Fighter Command was approaching breaking point, not in aircraft. Production was adequate, replacement aircraft were arriving. But in pilots, the experienced pilots were wearing out, the new pilots were dying too quickly. Something had to change. The attrition rates couldn't continue, or Fighter Command would simply run out of pilots, would have aircraft sitting on the ground with no one to fly them. And then the Germans made a mistake. September 1940, the Blitz. September 7th, the Luftwaffe shifted strategy again, stopped attacking airfields, started attacking London. This decision saved Fighter Command and lost Germany the Battle of Britain. The shift happened because of politics and revenge and strategic miscalculation. RAF bombers had raided Berlin in late August. Small raid, minimal damage, but it humiliated the Nazi leadership. Goering had promised Berlin couldn't be bombed. Now it had been. Hitler was furious, demanded retaliation. Additionally, German intelligence believed Fighter Command was nearly destroyed, believed the August airfield attacks had been successful, believed RAF was down to maybe 100 operational fighters. That one more push would finish them. They were catastrophically wrong. Fighter Command still had over 600 fighters operational, was battered but not broken. Another few weeks of airfield attacks might have succeeded, might have actually destroyed the command and control infrastructure, made coordinated defense impossible. But the shift to London meant RAF airfields got reprieve, could repair damage, could rest pilots, could rebuild operational capability, while Luftwaffe bombed cities instead of military targets. Strategically, bombing London was wasteful, killed civilians, destroyed homes, but didn't destroy Britain's ability to fight, didn't destroy aircraft production, didn't destroy RAF operational capability. Just made British population more determined, more angry, more committed to fighting. September 15th became the decisive day, the day that would later be commemorated as Battle of Britain Day. The Luftwaffe launched 2 massive raids, morning and afternoon, over 400 aircraft in each raid, targeting London, trying to destroy the city, break British morale, force surrender. Fighter Command scrambled everything. Every available squadron, every available aircraft, even training units sent up their students, experienced instructors leading them. Everyone who could fly went up. The fighting was intense but different from August, because bombers were targeting London, not airfields. RAF didn't have to defend scattered targets, could concentrate forces, could position multiple squadrons for single interception, could mass aircraft in ways that hadn't been possible during airfield attacks. The Luftwaffe ran into wall of fighters, over London, over Kent, over Sussex. Everywhere they turned, Spitfires and Hurricanes attacked. From above, from ahead, from the sides. The German formation discipline broke down. Bombers scattered. Many jettisoned bombs early, turned for home. Others pressed on, got hit repeatedly. Many went down. The escort fighters, the Me-109s, were at disadvantage. They were at extreme range, could only stay over Britain for maybe 20 minutes, then had to return to France, leaving bombers unprotected. The Spitfires exploited this ruthlessly, engaged 109s immediately, forced them to fight, burned up their fuel. And when 109s had to leave, Hurricanes massacred the bombers. By end of day, the Luftwaffe had lost over 60 aircraft. The RAF lost about 30. But more importantly, the bombing had been ineffective, scattered. Many bombs fallen on empty areas, little damage to critical infrastructure. The Luftwaffe crews returned to France demoralized. They'd been told RAF was nearly destroyed, that one more push would win, but they'd faced hundreds of fighters, had taken terrible losses. And for what? Some buildings destroyed, no military value. 2 days later, Hitler postponed Operation Sea Lion indefinitely. The invasion wouldn't happen in 1940, maybe not ever. The Luftwaffe couldn't achieve air superiority, couldn't suppress the RAF, couldn't protect an invasion fleet. The Spitfire, along with the Hurricane, had saved Britain, not by winning decisively, but by surviving, by making the cost too high, by proving that Britain couldn't be defeated from the air, that invasion wasn't feasible, that Germany would have to find another way or give up. The Spitfire's success resulted from design philosophy prioritizing performance and handling, creating aircraft that could match or exceed any opponent through combination of speed, maneuverability, and firepower. The elliptical wing was the defining feature, not just aesthetically beautiful, but aerodynamically optimal. The elliptical shape distributed lift evenly across the entire wingspan. This created minimum induced drag, maximum lift-to-drag ratio, perfect for high-speed flight and tight turns. Designer R.J. Mitchell had calculated this meticulously, every curve, every angle, optimized for performance. The wing was thin, only 13% thickness-to-chord ratio at the root. Tapering to 6% at the tip, this thinness reduced drag dramatically, allowed higher speeds, but thin wing created structural challenges, had to be strong enough to handle combat loads, high G turns, dive recoveries, gun recoil. Mitchell solved this with innovative construction. The wing had single main spar, with stressed skin carrying loads, no internal bracing, no struts, just the skin itself acting as structure. This was revolutionary in 1936. Most aircraft used fabric covering over internal structure. The fabric carried no loads, was just aerodynamic surface. Mitchell's approach made the skin itself structural, lighter, stronger, more efficient. The Rolls-Royce Merlin engine was the other critical component. This engine would become legendary, would power not just the Spitfire, but the Hurricane, the P-51 Mustang, the Lancaster bomber, dozens of aircraft types. The Merlin was liquid-cooled V12, initially producing about 1,000 horsepower, but with enormous potential for development. By war's end, late-model Merlins produced over 2,000 horsepower, double the original output. This upgradability meant the Spitfire could be continuously improved. Each new Merlin variant made the Spitfire faster, better climbing, more powerful. the armament evolved throughout the war. Early Spitfires had 8 303 caliber machine guns, 4 in each wing. This gave tremendous rate of fire, about 9,600 rounds per minute total, but .303 was light caliber, required many hits to destroy aircraft. Later, Spitfires got heavier armament, 2 20mm cannons plus 4 machine guns, or 4 20mm cannons. The cannons fired slower, but each shell was far more destructive. 1 or 2 cannon hits could destroy enemy aircraft versus dozens of machine gun hits required. The handling was the Spitfire's secret weapon, the light, responsive controls, the perfect harmony between pitch, roll, and yaw. The way it responded instantly to pilot input. This made it superbly maneuverable in combat. Test pilot Jeffrey Quill described it perfectly. The Spitfire doesn't just fly, it dances. It responds to thought rather than control inputs. You think about turning and it's already turning. You think about rolling and it's already rolling. The connection between pilot and aircraft is immediate, intimate. There's no airplane between you and the sky. This handling made the Spitfire forgiving for good pilots, demanding for poor ones. A skilled pilot could exploit the responsiveness, could outmaneuver anything, could survive situations that would kill them in other aircraft, but it required physical strength. The controls were light at low speeds, but got heavy at high speeds. Above 300 miles per hour, turning required significant force. Rolling required both hands on the stick. This was intentional. The heavy controls at high speed prevented overstressing the airframe, prevented pilots from pulling too many Gs and breaking the aircraft. The comparison to the Messerschmitt 109 revealed both aircraft's strengths and weaknesses. The Me 109 was faster in level flight, could dive faster, had better high-altitude performance above 20,000 feet, had heavier armament. The 20mm cannon and 2 machine guns hit harder than Spitfire's 8 303s, but the Spitfire could turn tighter, could sustain turns longer. Had better low-altitude performance below 20,000 feet, had better visibility. The 109's narrow-track landing gear made it tricky to land. The Spitfire's wide-track gear was stable and forgiving. In combat, tactics determined outcomes more than aircraft capabilities. A well-flown 109 could beat a poorly flown Spitfire. A well-flown Spitfire could beat a poorly flown 109. When both pilots were equally skilled, the combat usually ended in stalemate. Neither could achieve decisive advantage. But that stalemate was British victory. Because the Spitfire's job wasn't to destroy all the 109s, just to prevent them from achieving air superiority, just to contest the sky, just to survive. And at that mission, the Spitfire excelled. The Battle of Britain demonstrated fundamental principles about defensive air combat, about how outnumbered force can contest air superiority through combination of aircraft performance, tactical doctrine, integrated defense system, and fighting over home territory. German approach emphasized overwhelming force and aggressive offense. Luftwaffe doctrine assumed that sufficient numbers, properly applied, could achieve air superiority, that bombers escorted by fighters could overwhelm defenses, that sustained pressure would break opponents' will and capability. This approach had worked in Poland, had worked in France, had worked in Norway. Why wouldn't it work against Britain? British approach emphasized efficient use of limited resources. Fighter command doctrine assumed outnumbered defense could contest air superiority through careful positioning, through radar providing early warning, through letting enemy come to you rather than seeking them out, through preserving forces for critical fights rather than responding to every provocation. This approach was born of necessity. Britain didn't have enough fighters to be everywhere, couldn't match German numbers, had to be smart rather than strong, had to fight efficiently rather than overwhelmingly. The kill ratios told part of the story. From July through October 1940, the Luftwaffe lost roughly 1,900 aircraft. The RAF lost roughly 1,100 fighters, ratio of about 1.7 to 1 favoring RAF. But these numbers understated RAF advantage, because many RAF pilots who were shot down survived, bailed out over Britain, were rescued, returned to combat within days, while German pilots shot down over Britain were captured, lost permanently. Additionally, many RAF aircraft that were damaged made it home, were repaired, returned to service. German bombers damaged over Britain had to fly back to France. Many didn't make it, crashed in Channel or crash-landed in France. The pilot survival rates revealed true disparity. RAF pilot survival rate when shot down over Britain, roughly 50%. German pilot survival rate when shot down over Britain, roughly 5%. This 10-to-1 difference in pilot survival created unsustainable attrition for the Luftwaffe. The strategic calculations reflected different objectives. Germany needed decisive victory, needed to destroy RAF, needed to achieve air superiority, allowing invasion. Anything less than that was failure. Britain needed to survive, needed to prevent air superiority, needed to make invasion impossible. Anything achieving that was success. This asymmetry meant that tactical draws were strategic victories for Britain. Every day the RAF survived was day the invasion couldn't happen. Every day the Luftwaffe failed to achieve air superiority was day Germany's strategic position weakened. Post-war, participants on both sides acknowledged the Spitfire's role. Adolf Galland, German fighter ace with 104 kills, later wrote, "The Spitfire was a formidable opponent, not necessarily better than our 109 in all respects, but good enough that we couldn't achieve decisive advantage. In combat between equal pilots, neither aircraft dominated." This parity was Britain's salvation, because they didn't need to dominate, just needed to survive, and the Spitfire allowed them to survive. Hugh Dowding, Fighter Command Chief, stated simply, "We won the Battle of Britain with the Hurricane and the Spitfire. The Hurricane shot down more aircraft because there were more of them, but the Spitfire contested the 109, and in contesting it, protected the Hurricanes, protected Britain. Without the Spitfire, we would have lost. I have no doubt about that." Winston Churchill, in his famous speech, declared, "Never in the field of human conflict was so much owed by so many to so few." He was speaking of the pilots, but implicitly of the aircraft they flew, the Hurricanes and Spitfires that made victory possible. The Spitfire would go on to serve throughout the war, would evolve continuously. Would fight in every theatre, Mediterranean, North Africa, Far East, Europe. Would be built in 24 major variants, would serve with over a dozen nations. But its finest hour was the summer of 1940, when Britain stood alone, when invasion loomed, when the Spitfire's elliptical wings carved through British skies, contesting every raid, fighting every day, bringing pilots home, allowing Britain to survive. The Battle of Britain and the Spitfire's role revealed fundamental truths about defensive air combat, about aircraft design optimized for specific missions, about how integrated defense systems multiply force effectiveness, and about how outnumbered forces can prevail through tactical wisdom and technological adequacy. First lesson: aircraft optimized for specific mission and operational environment can succeed despite being outnumbered when design matches actual combat requirements. The Spitfire wasn't designed to be best fighter in every category, was designed to defend Britain, to fight at altitudes where bombers operated, over home territory where damaged aircraft could return to base, against known opponent, the Messerschmitt 109, whose performance was understood. This focused design meant accepting trade-offs. Complex construction made production slower than Hurricane. High performance requirements made it demanding to fly, but these trade-offs were acceptable because the mission required aircraft matching the 109. Anything less meant losing air superiority, losing the battle, losing Britain. Modern forces should design systems for actual operational requirements rather than abstract superiority. The system that can be built in adequate numbers, operated by available personnel, and succeeds at required mission is superior to theoretically perfect system that can't be fielded effectively. Second lesson, integrated defense system multiplies effectiveness of limited forces through early warning, coordinated response, and efficient resource allocation. RAF system wasn't just fighters, was combination of radar detection, command and control, vectoring fighters to intercepts, and concentration of forces at critical points. This system meant 650 fighters could contest 2,800 German aircraft because British fighters were never wasted. Were always positioned advantageously, were fighting when and where it mattered. German raids faced coordinated response rather than random encounters. This multiplied British effectiveness by factor of 3 or 4. Meant they could contest air superiority despite being outnumbered almost 4 to 1. Modern integrated air defense systems reflect this lesson. Early warning, command and control, coordinated response, and efficient allocation of force multipliers. Converting numerical inferiority into tactical parity through intelligent application of limited resources. Third lesson. Fighting over home territory provides decisive advantages in pilot survival, aircraft recovery, and sustained operations that can offset numerical inferiority. RAF pilots shot down over Britain could bail out and be flying again within days. German pilots shot down over Britain were lost permanently. This asymmetry meant that in sustained attrition battle, RAF was winning, even when kill ratios were roughly even, because they retained their experienced pilots while Germans lost theirs. Additionally, damaged British aircraft could limp home and be repaired. Damaged German aircraft had to fly back to France or be abandoned. This increased German losses beyond combat kills. Modern air campaigns over enemy territory face these same disadvantages. Every loss is permanent. Every damaged aircraft is abandoned. Sustained operations over hostile territory impose unsustainable attrition unless achieving rapid, decisive results. Fourth lesson. Defensive force only needs to survive, while offensive force needs to win decisively. Creating strategic asymmetry favoring defense when defense has adequate capability contesting attacks. Germany needed air superiority for invasion, needed to destroy RAF, needed decisive victory on timeline. Britain needed to survive, needed to prevent air superiority, needed to make invasion impossible. These different objectives meant tactical draws were strategic British victories. The Spitfire enabled contesting German attacks. Didn't need to win every engagement, just needed to prevent Luftwaffe from achieving air superiority. Every day RAF survived was strategic success. Every day Luftwaffe failed to win decisively was strategic failure. Modern defensive operations reflect this dynamic. Defender with adequate capability, forcing attacker into protracted campaign, creates strategic advantage even when tactically outnumbered. Attacker's need for decisive results becomes exploitable weakness when defender can sustain resistance. Fifth lesson, aircraft upgradability and production sustainability matter more than initial performance when conflict extends beyond initial expectations and when rapid technological evolution requires continuous improvement. Spitfire's greatest strength was its development potential. The basic airframe could accept more powerful engines, heavier armament, additional equipment while maintaining performance. This meant Spitfire evolved from 1938 through 1945, continuously improving, always remaining competitive. This upgradability was intentional. Mitchell designed the Spitfire with development potential built in. Strong airframe, space for larger engines, provisions for heavier weapons. This foresight meant investment in Spitfire production paid dividends throughout the war. Modern systems should be designed with upgrade paths, with margin for growth, with ability to accept new capabilities as technology evolves. The system that remains relevant through continuous improvement provides better long-term value than system optimized for initial deployment becoming obsolete rapidly. Pilot Officer Geoffrey Wellum survived the Battle of Britain, continued flying Spitfires throughout the war, became squadron commander, survived to tell his story. In his memoir, he wrote simply, "The Spitfire saved my life many times, brought me home when I should have died. I don't know how many times I landed with bullet holes, with damaged controls, with engine smoking, but the aircraft always got me home, always brought me back." We owed everything to that aircraft, to Mitchell's genius, to Rolls-Royce's engine, to the workers who built them. Without the Spitfire, we would have lost. Britain would have fallen. That's not drama, that's simply fact. The 20,000 351 Spitfires produced during 1938-1948 represented Mitchell's legacy and Britain's salvation. Aircraft that began as drawing on dying designers' drafting table became symbol of British resistance and technological triumph, proved that focused design optimized for specific mission can succeed despite numerical inferiority, when integrated into effective defense system, operated by determined pilots, fighting over home territory worth defending. By war's end, with Spitfire having served in every theatre, evolved through 24 variants, proven itself adaptable to every role from low-altitude ground attack to high-altitude interception. The mathematics proving that aircraft design matching operational requirements succeeds despite being outnumbered were written through thousands of sorties defending Britain's skies, making invasion impossible, allowing Britain to survive and eventually to win.